Heater's not on.
Hello, hello, hello.
I am recording.
You're turning on? No. Different ones. Yep, we're recording. Are you guys audio recording or video?
We have audio and a video.
Okay.
Good morning. We got 1:35 on August 3rd for our IUPA negotiations. We're going to be reviewing the retirement pension benefits. And we want to start with the introductions. So my name is Melanie Donnelly. I'm the Administrative Services Director.
My name's Amanda Sargent, HR Administrator.
John McKinney, Finance Director.
Katrina Powell, Deputy City Manager.
Manny Marino, Chief of Police. Assistant Chief Proctor.
Jeremy Bird, IUPA Secretary.
Ted Kurtz, IUPA Treasurer.
Jeff Wendell, I put a board member.
Mike Lambert, IUPA Attorney.
Jared Alvastados, IUPA President.
Chris Raines, I Vice President.
Okay, and so we did a actuarial study and it came back on June 10th with the numbers. There was 3 different asks talking about possibly moving tiers, looking at the COLA and the max benefit payable, as well as average final comp on the tiers from 2 to 3. So there's a bunch of different things and we ran the numbers and we've both gotten a chance to review them. At this time, the council feels it's not the right time to do it. We're in a bear market. We're on the heels of a recession. We want to make sure it's fully funded when people retire. So at this moment, we are not looking at any of the 3 options.
So the council's motion is they don't want to make any changes to the pension things that they were completely fine with changing this year, earlier when we started.
Correct. They don't want to make any changes at this time. They want to look at it again next year.
Not even the death benefit we discussed?
That's
Death
different. That's different. So I understand you had to come in this extremely late, so I'll give you some backstory when we started. The city expressed the idea of making these pension changes this year. We agreed with them. We would also like to make these pension changes this year. We already were aware that there was a flex in the stock market, and what we thought was, let's do the actuary study. Let's come up with some figures, some actual figures to present to the council so they could actually see what the real numbers are, so we don't have to do a back and forth of what ifs. The initial thing that we came up with a group of, I want to say 5 or 6 groupings. We brought that down to 3. We did multiplier changes in the first set of groupings that we submitted. We backed those down to no percentage changes. We made several different things that, the meeting with the city, and the city, especially with the actuary cost, splitting with them half and half and saying, hey, we're interested in doing this. We want to make these changes. We're willing to pay our half. You guys pay our half. We paid a $5,500 bill. Now we're seeing that these facts and figures of these already backed down groupings from 5 or 6 to 3. And these are 3 very conservative groupings. Your one group is costing $40,000. That's personally, I think that's the most minute thing in the world. Your second and your third, it's a $280,000, and then you have a 320. So you have $280,000, and then a $320,000 change for the group 3. So you have a $320,000 operating change for the maximum pension change that would take this department, who's already now facing some issues with recruiting again, because all these other agencies around us are making these valuable changes. They're going to take your guys, they're going to take your people again. $320,000 change is not a hard cost. I don't see in any way, shape, or form that city council can react in a negative light to this. The other thing that I would definitely express extremely hard to this council is that your mortgage atomization payments, there is a large chunk of it that comes off for the year of 2023. I think it's in the amount of $380,000. So your $340,000 cost that you don't even have to do until next year washes, and you're even in the black with that. So you're in the black next year, getting that mortgage payment that comes off. So there's actually a wash of that change. So you can make this valuable pension change. See these valuable changes. They're going to retain your people who are looking to leave. And if you think that Chief Chitwood is not going to attempt to pillage this place, he's already doing it. He already does it. We know how charismatic he is. I personally talked to the gentleman multiple times. He's extremely charismatic. He is not afraid to throw money around, throw benefits around. He's going to do it. We already understand it. We are not ignorant to the fact that there is some issues in the economy. We get that. That's why this union has came to you with a valuable set of changes that, though it's not a pay difference, it's a benefit difference. This is what retains your people. This is what gets these newer guys who are debating county, Daytona, New Smyrna, South Daytona. Well, Port Orange has a 20-year and I can leave. Oh man, I'm going to get COLA from them. These are valuable changes. The idea that the city council has given you this order to come to me, come to this union and these police officers who are watching this YouTube right now and probably punching their steering wheels, saying that they don't intend to make any changes, is like a slap in the face for me. I spent $5,500 of their money to do this study in good faith with the city. And for the city council to go, not interested, without any idea or any even sitting down with the actual cost, is a slap in the face for me. If you weren't aware of the mortgage payment drop-off, I'm good with that. But that needs to be presented to them. They need to know that. I know the pension board stays in good contact with the city council. I know they do a fantastic job. I know they do a fantastic job going back and forth with finance and all the city admin. This needs to be relayed that our most expensive grouping is washed next year when they would actually see that actual change. Washed. And that's I don't know how this city, who prides itself for some reason, a certain city council member who prides himself in saying we're lean here. No, you're cheap. You're not lean, you're just cheap. You have a fantastic city that I work very hard in, and I don't live here. He works very hard and he doesn't live here. We can't even afford to live in this city, though we do our very best to protect it. Your fire services do it, your police do it, your parks and recs do it. The city council right now, to react like this in this ever-growing issue of, well, there's a stumbling market and I want to make sure that I'm elected as state legislator or whatever he's running for. To me, that's not my problem. He wants to knock on doors, that's on him. The city council as a whole live here. They need to be accountable to the people who need to know that your police officers are now coming off again, as this police department tried so hard to recruit, so hard, diligently. And I know the work that they did to pull people in and give them nice things and give them good cars and they're not going to keep them. They're not going to keep them. But I've had 5 people in the last week tell me I'm leaving by the end of this year. Just so you know, it's not the place. It's the money. There's no reason for me to stay here. The benefits aren't that great. I'm getting a better job offer. If you think that won't happen, and the city will go back it doesn't have to be just wages that cause these problems. It's the benefits. When people see that there is no long-term reason to stay here, they make these decisions at their 3-year mark. Some of them are making them at their 1-year mark. Their 10-year marks especially. Now they're vested and they go, hey, fantastic time to leave. You guys pay me. He's at his 10 mark shortly. I'm already at my 10 mark. Our intentions have never been to go to other places. My intention when I started at this police department was to work here, diligently until the day I retired. So I could leave here and know that I did a really great service for the city, as do many of these police officers with families, with kids, with whatever responsibilities they have. So I wholeheartedly would, the idea, it's rejected 100% in my mind that anything less than that number 3 grouping is just going to be considered a slap in the face to these officers. They will not accept it. They will not accept the idea that, especially that his city wants to make no changes at all.
How could the city blanketly turn it down without any kind of proposition to balance it out or anything? They just don't want, because they brought us into it and said, here's what we want to open up, here's what we want to do. We need money from you, we'll pay money for it, and then turn around and just go, nope.
So the numbers that are on the actuarial study are from 2021, is that correct?
October 2021.
It's based on the valuation as of October 1st, 2021.
There's a little
But
backstory.
the city knew that going in, correct? And they still agreed to pay half of this study? So
Yeah,
what was the
going
point,
after
was the
the
cost
study
of us to even
future.
do the study if they had no intention of actually negotiating on anything?
I think they did have an intention, it's just things changed and then,
Everything changes all the time.
There,
But also, we didn't do this that long ago. It's not like we started this in 2021 or 2020. We're talking a few months ago, we arranged to do this study and they decided to split it with us. The world has not changed that drastically since, what, April, May? It's not like suddenly the economy was soaring high in the sky and then crashed down that quickly or anything. Like,
We
this
had
is
more uncertainty then than we do now.
2021 was not if we had done this actuary study in 2020, I already know the wordage that would have, well, it's a weird year, there's a lot of things that happen, this is not good data. So we can't play the game of like, when's the good year? Because if I picked the middle of a recession, well, that was really bad data, we don't know. That it's always going to be the same. 2021 was an average. I would say below average. Stock market was not doing well last year. We were not up last year. Everyone was still recovering from 2020 issues. So that data is a lot more familiar. I think that's a lot more valuable than to get data from 2019, 2020, 2018.
And if
We
the city-
can't we cannot constantly have this. Well, that things change. That every year something's going to change. Next year we'll have a Category 9 hurricane, and that'll change too.
Gentlemen, your frustration is heard and it's understood, but I mean, please know, going into this study, obviously the discussion was, we want to evaluate whether or not this is something that would make sense. And that's why the study was conducted. It was not an ironclad contractual agreement to make changes. It was a review of whether or not we would be able to enter into those types of discussions. So based upon the results of the actuarial study, we took a look at what came out of that. And unfortunately, at this time and place, we're not able to move further with those types of discussions.
Is the city willing to discuss any changes at all? Even parts of it?
Basically, what you're saying is the city has zero intention of any negotiation whatsoever.
What we're saying is for the
Trying to solve
we're
actuaries
saying now
pension,
is not the time. So
Okay, so basically you're saying zero chance of any negotiation whatsoever.
regarding the pension changes.
That's what the proposal was.
Well, that's what's open.
That's what it
Yeah.
was.
I mean, that's what's open.
Right.
And my question back would be, what number would you have liked to see? I mean, that's a low cost. We were told millions. I mean, we were told literally millions.
No, they only want to.
Oh, it's going to cost millions, can't be done. Millions can't be
We
done.
just had an officer quit. There's more than $43,000.
Yeah.
More than one officer.
You have another officer that
Yeah.
actually is leaving by the
Tons.
end of, I want to say the next 2 weeks, she's leaving. There's another $50,000.
They come, they go.
We have multiple open spots that probably closely budgetize that entire change.
Jerry,
So for
can I
instance,
ask about
just
the
to-
death benefit?
And I understand
Covered
you guys
last
are
year?
here as representatives, you're
That's
not
being
the
changed.
council, but
It is.
Yes.
the increase in estimated
Why
city
not bring it up?
contribution for our lowest option was 0.79%. So the city council is saying 1%, less than 1% is too much for them, that's too big a pill to swallow.
Fraction of
We,
one.
0.79% just can't handle it, budgets just, they can't do that. Because that's at least one of our options. It's not the one we want, but it's something, and the city's not even looking at that, a 0.79% increase, that's too rich for their blood.
When we were
Because if
hired-
so, going forward, there's probably never gonna be anything that they're willing to look at, right? I don't know how much lower we can get than a 0.79% increase. I mean, that's about as
I'm
low
gonna-
as it's gonna ever get.
I'm gonna caution this city council who will watch this, and I'm gonna caution them that when we enter a further downtrend and you have a mass exodus of police officers go to other departments and you are struggling to fill half of this city, you can go look back on this minor change that could have been made to keep some of these people, and they're gonna go, But I'm gonna tell you that, what I think the city civilians that live here need to know. I think they need to know at some point who doesn't get their zone staffed anymore. Some of the people who live out in the Water's Edge area should know that some days you don't even have a police officer there. So when they ask their city council members, how come there is no police officer out here? Well, I don't know what answer they're gonna give them, because we're not talking about wages. We're talking about a benefit that no one is even taking advantage of at this moment. All of your younger officers, I think the closest person on the tier 2 mark who would qualify is about 5 years here. He is already retired from a different employment, so he's nowhere near planning on leaving. I have a 10-year mark. I think the next tier 2 person who has is senior has 11 or 12 years as a police officer. They are in no way, shape, or form collecting their benefits anytime soon. All you're doing as a city is saying that, yes, you have presented these figures. Yes, these can be moved. Yes, we can move these around and make this work, but we're not interested because we're just not interested. I'm not hearing a reason why. I'm just hearing a no. I'm hearing a no. What I would like to have heard was, we see that these numbers are doable. Something is doable. Maybe can we talk about this? The mortgage payment in itself, that should be something that should be presented, and it needs to be presented. The council needs to know that. If they don't know it or they choose to not, that's not realistic. They need to know that. They need to be presented this information that says this is a wash. This is a good way to retain people. This is a good way to recruit. You are going to be at the bottom of recruiting, the bottom. This has happened prior. We have about the same amount of officers right now as we did when I started, probably less. And the city was nowhere near as built. Nowhere near as built. And there has been this discussion from, I've heard it prior, this council looks to trim, well, do we need this? Do we need that? You don't need something until you need it. And when the crime spikes and all your officers are constantly tied up, there's no more proactive patrol, and all you're doing is chasing, we're just gonna be Daytona Beach. That's all you're gonna be. That's half our job, is preventing the crime that is in Daytona Beach from spilling into Port Orange. That's what I've done since I started here, is preventing the crime that is rampaged in Daytona from coming here. And if you have literal criminals and defendants on tape, on body camera, who will tell you, I shouldn't have came in the city, I knew better, that is what you want to have firm. That's what the city council should stand on top. They should be touting that, but they want to tout it with a thin line of string and go, yeah, it still holds, except for you can make it stronger until it doesn't hold. And I have not done this job forever, but I can tell you that getting an officer from the school to the road, to getting them situated in knowing their job correctly enough to where they can be independent officers and they don't need constant attention, it's a year. It's a year minimum. It's a minimum, minimum. Your average officer knows just about as much as they need to know where they can be kind of on their own at 3 years. So you got to hold them for 3 years. We've already have a large problem. We've already have this large internal issue of trying to get other agencies, people who've left other agencies. We can't convince them to come here. We've had a couple people that have tried, they immediately pull string, they leave. They don't, whatever it is. They don't like the benefit, they don't like the workload. The workload along with the pay in itself has always been a contention here. Oh my God, the amount of the stuff that you guys do here, that's the constant thing you hear. I can't believe everything you guys do here. You know, but you have these services for the city because it's so well maintained. You have to have a fully staffed animal control. You have to have a fully staffed motor unit. I think we've got a comparable amount of schools to Daytona Beach. And we've got we've got a quarter of their motors. A quarter.
What we're asking for is not something that we didn't already have. A lot of us were hired under the promise of 20 and that all got construed into being required by the sheriff's department and PBA for us to vote on that. Whether that was a fair, or you could argue either way, but we were hired, most of us were hired under those promises, which were morphed into do 5 more years. We're just asking to be put back to what, when we signed the paper. We're not asking for extra.
So is there anything at all like the city's even willing to listen to if we start to piecemeal this out, which of course we don't want to, but it sounds like you're basically telling us that's our only potential option? Or is it just have a nice day and this is the one and only meeting we're gonna have?
This isn't negotiation.
So my suggestion here might be is watch last night's council meeting where they said maximum millage.
Yeah, we did.
That's their bond.
But that's
and they're
not,
choosing that.
but I'm providing you answers. See, I'm not asking for a slew of new cars, new tanks, petty things that can go, hey, not the time. That's completely different. We submit a budget request of $150,000 for a new set of motorcycles. That is something I expect the city to respond with, hey, it's not the right time. That's different. We still can operate. These are benefit changes that have no cost next year. No cost.
You mentioned also something about them wanting it to be fully funded. Does that mean the city's refusing to do anything unless the pension's 100% funded?
They never said that.
I thought you said that something about
You
fully
said
funded.
fully
So
funded.
what's the magic number then that allows them to start to negotiate more?
Well, last night, we as staff took a balanced general fund budget at 4.92. So that means that to turn the power on tomorrow, it's costing more than the day. So we need to raise taxes almost $2 million. Even at $2 million, we had to cut $1.5 million out of the budget, just to balance the budget. There's zero enhancements in next year's budget.
No, I understand all that, but you made a mention about they wanted to be, something like fully funded next year. So is that what's the holdup, or do they want the pension to be better funded?
Pension.
Or did I just mishear
You're
you?
talking about unfunded liability portion, right?
Yeah, I never said anything
The pension.
about.
Yeah, he's talking about the unfunded liability portion of how much,
Yeah, perhaps I misheard you when you said something about it being fully funded earlier.
no, they're talking about prior, so.
Okay, I'm trying to think of what I
If you
just
notice on
said.
the actuarial study, I think it showed 86%.
So I have that right here. So since December 31st, the police pension has lost almost $9 million in value. Your current unfunded liability you're at 86.1% funded. So that means you're at 13.9 unfunded. That's as of October 1st of 21. So I fully expect, and I'm just grabbing numbers out of the air, I fully expect that your unfunded liability will probably go from 86.1 probably to around 80 when the next valuation comes out. So that will probably mean that the city's required contribution will probably go back up close to 50%. I'm just making a guess. I mean, I'm not an actuary, whatnot, but that's what I predict. So,
Well, since we're pulling numbers out of the air, everything goes up, whether it's electric, police services, fire services, parks and rec, whatever the case is. So to be under the understanding that the police services isn't gonna cost you more money each year is negligent. And at some point, just so y'all know, and I know you guys aren't police officers, okay, but as a supervisor, I'd say in the last 8 to 12 months, I have staffed the road with an average of 6 officers for 68,000 people. And if you don't understand police services, every domestic requires 2 cops. We average on day shift between 112 and 130 calls a day with 6 cops. I don't think the council and I don't think people that aren't in this service understand that. So try to keeping those officers who can go in, either do private sector or another agency, whatever the case may be, staffing levels are better, pays better, benefits are better, to be in an unsafe environment. I don't think the citizens understand that. When I talk to citizens and tell them, yeah, there's 6 cops, I'm sorry I couldn't get to you, they are not happy. The problem is the citizens of the city don't know that. They need to know that because this is a problem.
I think what I'm faced with, as your finance director. I 100% agree with everything you just said. This is the first time in my 30-year career that I have had everything happen, perfect storm, first time.
We've heard that every year.
We've been doing this for
Every
almost
year.
19
I have
years. It's
never
always something.
seen
always
concrete go from $200 to $1,000.
We don't use concrete.
I understand what
I
you're
watched
Once
saying.
the business goes up.
Sir.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm
I
just
understand.
making the statement to you. I have never, ever seen fuel go the way it is, chemicals, everything that, 68% of the general fund budget,
06 and 08, we had a terrible recession.
but not as bad as what price escalation right now. I'm not saying we didn't have price escalation. The biggest issue we had in 08 to 9 was fuel. In 08, 09, when I was doing a construction project, the prices went in half from 07 to 08, 09. So, but we haven't seen that here. So collectively, citywide, I have never seen every commodity, good and service, increase exponentially the way it is today.
We all know that. That's common knowledge.
But I only
We're,
have.
we're paying those
Right.
prices as well.
Yeah.
But when it comes to safety, you don't put a price on that. You
I
don't
agree
say, well,
with you.
fuel went up, so we can't pay our cops. Without us, what do you have?
I
Let's
100%
be
agree.
honest.
And I think it was very clear to us last night in the last council meetings is, no pay is being touched. It's what benefiting enhancement of benefits can be deferred. That's pretty much what I heard. I mean,
Since
What does that-
2011,
what does
the
that
city's kicked the can down.
we don't know.
Every year.
But,
You
don't know what you just
but
said?
again, we're not talking about a wage change. We're not talking about a wage change. We're talking about a benefit change that no one is going to be taking advantage of for a while. So this is the easiest, slipperiest way for the city council to stand good with keeping people and retaining the people who are literally holding phones right now doing application I'm telling you, you have to understand. And I know the administration, our police department, they understand what we're going through. When we talk about the amount of cops around, it is not fun to be belittled by these citizens who wonder why it took me 40 minutes to get to their trespasser. Why'd you take 50 minutes to get to my car break? Why'd you take an hour to get
How do
here?
we have no backup?
Why'd you close my animal complaint?
Because you got
Because we
sick,
have no
you
one
got-
on the road. I
you
told
got sick
someone, and I got
cops.
screamed at by a little old lady screams at me. How dare I not be in her neighborhood? If the city council thinks that this is not going to be a large tidal wave of an issue, they're going to be sorely mistaken. You are never, ever, ever going to recover from the amount of people you are going to lose this next year. If they do not make a valuable change right now, when they have an out, they have money that's going to be moved around, they have money that's going to wash, they have an ability to say, hey, we're trying. Hey, we can throw this out. We can throw a 20-year out. We can give them we can use these buzzwords to pull these people in. They stay 5-6 years. We get out of this downturn. We come back up, boom, and we keep them longer. We have to play the roller coaster dips. We know it's a dip. We get that. We get it. But the city needs to play these dips and go, hey, long term, we're not paying a $3 wage increase right now. We're paying something that no one's even taken advantage of. So apply it now and look 5, 6, 7 years from now when you get back up, and now you have plenty of time to adjust if you need to. But no one's taking advantage of these changes. No one. You're the only change that you would find someone in the relative maybe next 2 years would probably take advantage of that cap raise and the drop at 10, or the 10 and 48 drop that's noted. Other than that, all of your majority of tier 2 people who want to be a part of the tier 1 people, and the tier 1 people want to finally have a smile on their face for having worked here. And I don't know why I stayed here so long, but they want to leave from what they were promised. I don't know how they did it.
It
To
actually
me,
would keep
I
us
wouldn't.
longer.
I wouldn't have done it.
Because if I could drop, I'm gonna stay here longer than if I don't have that ability. That's
So-
pretty much a fact.
Can I ask a question?
Correct.
Maybe I'm completely misinformed. You say there's no increased cost to the city, but I'm looking at the valuation prepared by, your actuary. Proposal 1 has the estimated contribution rate of the city going from 42.97 to 43.76. Proposal 2 has it going to 48.13, and proposal 3 has it going up to 50.6. So that is an increased cost to the city.
I'm not saying there's no increase in it itself. I'm saying that when you're looking at the actual figures and you're looking at how can we make this work, this number work, I'm not asking you to make $1 million change with no ability to move anything. What I'm showing you is I'm giving you the avenue of saying, hey, in case no one presented this, you guys have a large payment of money you're getting a $380,000 drop next year, and the following year I believe it's $110,000.
I'm at a loss on what this reduction is.
So I think it's and this is the last payment on the previous smoothing. That occurred way before I got here. I don't even know how many
So
years.
2000, Chief Proctor it was a long time ago they applied that.
Yeah, but talking about that smoothing, and again, maybe we need to get your actuary on the phone, at a later date, but this is taking, I'm not seeing, nor has Melanie seen, to my knowledge, anything that would show in a year or so out that these rates are going down.
Then you need to act first. It's your actuary. It's not mine. It's your actuary.
The actuaries work for the pension.
But they don't, an actuary doesn't predict the future.
I understand, but an actuary doesn't work for the city, it works for the pension plan. So I can't call, I'm not supposed to call and ask for future year assumptions without permission from the chair.
So I think maybe there's
So if y'all give me permission to do that, I'll be more than happy to call them, but
maybe we're misunderstanding. You're under the assumption that we're saying that the city's contribution would go down? Is that-
yes, sir.
Okay. I think what the payment coming off would mean is that the percentage that the pensions funded would go up based on that amount, not necessarily that your contributions would go down.
Yeah, so
We're not saying your contributions would go down, but it would be $380,000 coming off of that, increasing how well funded the pension is,
Right.
unless I'm mistaken.
So everything that I deal with from a budgetary standpoint, and sir, I just make assumptions, you work for other pension plans as well, is I go by everything based on the employer required contributions. That's what I look for to know what the pension is. So, if there's a pension enhancement and it has almost a zero impact to the city, I can support it without any questions whatsoever, but
So a 0.79% increase,
$43,000.
is that not close enough for you to give it a thumbs up? Because that's pretty close to zero in my book.
We
We,
presented all of this to council.
Just so that we're clear, I've been here a long time.
Mhm.
I see guys from Parks and Rec driving Ford F-250s without even a trailer hitch on it, which means they tow nothing. It's a $50,000 truck. They don't need that, but yet we're spending all this money on things of that nature. And we're sit here to listen to the council presented by you that $43,000 is not doable, less than the cost of a truck that's not even what they need to have safety and security in your city. I'm at a loss.
We did
I'm at a
not make,
loss.
we did not make
We
a,
get that.
either way.
But
Right.
you,
Here's the request, we presented that.
So my request
So
to
get back-
you is to show the city council that you need to see, one, you need to be seeing these payment drop-offs, so you have better data. So you have the data to show them something also, like, hey, just so you know, this is a way that this money can be found because it's right here. So we will be in the black technically. I'm not saying that of course the contribution goes up. It's a pension change with benefits. Yes, it's going to go up. What I'm offering you and showing you is that when you see the scheduling of their payments that are coming off, that we're going to be at the end of 2022. There's nothing. They're not paying anything this year on these changes.
So I ask, please, would you please send to Karen Ronzabal, your pension plan administrator, authorization for me to contact Mr. Little, with your actuary, so that I can ask the question that you're stating regarding the drop-off? Because there could very well be a change with the smoothing coming off in one fiscal year that has a huge change that we don't know about, because it shows up, everything's based on, this actuary. I can show you everything regarding, it tells me what it is supposed to be as of this date and that date. That's all I see. So if there's a huge change coming on your pension plan, the best way for me to know is to be able to call or email them on those questions, and I can tell you, they will not respond to me without the chair's permission to talk to me.
So you need what? You need an email?
Email to Mr. Karen Rosenball,
Okay.
saying that, please work with Mr. McKinney so that he can get in contact with, Chad Little, regarding questions
Okay, thank
on
you.
the.
Thank you, Chief.
but also, let's just be upfront about it. How much more of a change can we get from a 0.79% increase on behalf of the city's contributions? We cannot get you much closer to zero without actually just making it zero. So if that is too much for them, I don't know how much change you talking to the pension board or the actuary is really going to make. If they're not even willing to give us less than 1% of an increase in their contributions towards our pension, it seems like we're all kind of wasting our time. Again, I don't know how much less we can ask
The
for
best thing I can say
realistically.
is that once we have information from you guys on this meeting, then the next shade meeting that we attend, we would be going back and say, hey, the police union is stating that this is the one benefit that they want, and that's the back and forth with it. We, as the 3-4 negotiators, have zero authority to TA anything. That everything has to go back to the council and the city manager.
So right now, you're not offering anything whatsoever, not even anything, not even a piece of one of these options.
the offer was to review it next year, so not at this time. I don't feel like now is the time.
So-
I'm not comfortable with
So
it.
what we're gonna do is we're gonna work to get you the approval you need to contact Mr. Little to show the council the figures that apparently they need to see. And if nothing else, bring them some information, maybe some objective reasonableness that they need to know that they're on the cusp of a wave here, and they're gonna lose. They're gonna go hardcore into the ground if they don't make a positive change. I promised these officers that I was gonna fight my hardest to make them want to stay here. I can't do that. Anyone who is on the cusp of wanting to leave right now is watching this, and I'm telling you, they're doing applications. They're done. They're done. That type of result, and I appreciate you, Mr. McKinney, for what you had to go through at the city council meeting. I do appreciate, Councilman Bastian and the mayor for having a voice that kind of argued that these points of lowering millage and keeping it the same was basically outrageous. I appreciate that. The people that stayed silent and fought against it, they're not unknown, and they will know they're not unknown. And what the council needs to know going forward is that they're not going to see any type of approval from their police department officers. They're not going to see this type of support. And what you're doing, what they are doing, I don't say you, they are doing, they are bringing down the morale of every one of these officers who's standing in the heat, is getting screamed at, is getting hurt. All these officers right now who are like, why am I here? And then they watch that type of atrocity and go, oh, good, and I work for a place that could care less about me. No. You got other sheriffs who get on TV every single second touting why we need extra pistols in our holsters, and they show that support. My admin shows their support for their officers. But for them to know that their council doesn't care, all that's going to do is it's just easier for county, it's easier for Daytona, it's easier for New Smyrna to say, hey, come on over.
What the officers see is every single city has the exact same problems that you're stating, Mr. McKinney. Every city. We're no different. But if you look around at the increases in benefits and pay, because they understand what is important to a city, which is safety. Because without safety, you have zero. You have nothing. I don't care how green your grass is or how many trees you have. They're going to all get burned down and nobody there to stop it. That's a problem. These other cities and counties understand that, and they're taking care of the problem. The governor's taking care of the problem with his state officers. But the city of Port Orange wants to sit here and say, no, we don't really care about that. That seems to be a problem.
And
I'm not yelling at you, but
I know.
since we can't talk to council because this is this dialogue that has to take place, it needs to get back.
So I think two things. If I go back and look, and again, I'm using information that comes from you guys. Y'all did see a reduction in your required contribution this year to last year from a percent of contribution. Y'all went from 63.1%, city contribution, 52.46% of payroll to 42.97% of payroll. So there was a reduction, but that reduction amounted to $139,000. So that tells me from what you said earlier, turnover. So you've seen a turnover. So obviously a seasoned police officer, makes more money than a new police officer. So therefore, that new police officer coming on board doesn't have as much of a contribution. But back to your statement regarding, you're seeing everything, change, whether it's New Smyrna or Daytona. The other thing that we have a problem is we're a city that's almost built out. And I know that doesn't matter to you or anyone else, but last year we only had 217 new homes built in Port Orange. New Smyrna has that in a month. Daytona has that in, probably, 3 weeks on average. So the amount of money that they're able to bring in is far more, significant to us without a major tax increase. I know that doesn't matter to you guys, but I look at it, and what I have to tell Melanie and Katrina is, how do I fund these changes, without a tax increase? And that's not for me. I mean, I all I can do is provide that information to council. And I thought I did a good job.
Right.
I thought I did a good job. And
The council has year after year understood and acknowledged the increases in costs, but have refused to raise taxes, which is, John, you're a financial guy, right? I'm just a dumb farmer. So
I would agree with that.
with all that being said, you can't have a city that constantly increases costs and you keep the same tax rate. That does not work, or rollback for how, 9 years straight? I mean,
It's a self-induced
This
problem.
is,
I've got a 10-year-old that can tell you that's not gonna work.
it's
I
gonna
mean,
be,
This is not right.
it's gonna be
I know
a
it's not.
disaster. It's gonna be a disaster. I mean, there's an apartment complex going right next door to the police department. There's one that just went up on Reed Canal. These are, and I heard this,
200,000 or
I heard
200
this-
acres being developed on Williams.
right, I heard this before with this, and I get very aggravated when I hear this comment from the council is, well, those are not taxable things. Well, guess what? That's home. I don't care if it's a 2-bedroom, one bath apartment. That's a home. That's a place an officer has to respond. Your crime happens in apartment complexes. Your crime happens in these breezeways. It's not just because it's not a little HOA community, does not mean it's not an officer who has to respond. So when you keep putting up these apartment complexes, you're going to find these officers can't even get out of them. Can't even get out of them. We can't even patrol them correctly. We've made multiple attempts to patrol one small apartment complex, Sunrise Point. We can't even patrol that accordingly. Can't. We don't have an officer. The officer's always busy. It's one of the busiest zones, and it has one of the most outspoken group of citizens in there who are like, there's shootings in here that go unreported. There's drug dealing in here. We have plenty of things. Our double homicide happened in there. You know, we can't control it accordingly. And now you added 2 more apartment complexes. We can't get officers to do proactive traffic stops because they're inundated with reports. And all you're going to find is that when another officer leaves, that's more workload on everyone else. Not that these officers don't care to do their job, but you can't do extra all day. You can't go and handle 15 calls for service and then say, I really want to go, beat up some crime and take someone to jail. They can't. They gotta be done with their paperwork by 6 p.m., 6 a.m., whatever it is, so they go home. You can't say, well, 5:30, I've got 4 reports to do. I'm gonna go make some charges. You can't do it. So people are sitting in parking lots, inundated all night. They're not patrolling. And once the car brake people realize that, they start coming back in. It's a phenomenon that is always going to happen. We had this issue in the last recession, and I know Daytona's. I know that there's this argument that comes where, well, Daytona has a lot of businesses, they contribute more tax revenue. Correct. Until there's no one shopping anymore. And then we have empty plazas like we do, and then you got empty. So that's all well and good. They have these great businesses until they're closed. So there's no more tax revenue for them. We have homes. You're going to have people living in these homes. We know that. So you have a more, in my opinion, my humble little opinion, you have a more stable revenue of taxes coming from these citizens who have to have a home. They got to work, they got to sleep, they got to pay for their kids. They all love the schools here. They're not going anywhere. So you can have a collapse of people wanting to go to the movie theaters and the old navies, but they still got to go to their home. So they're still paying their taxes. And we need to remember that. City council needs to remember that. We're not being funded by Disney World, so we don't have to have these what ifs. Yeah, of course, there's always a chance of foreclosure. I dealt with that as a police officer when I started. There was people who had been but those people had bought and put themselves in those situations at such a high cost. And now I think a lot of these people are more properly educated. We don't have that issue. The jobs are available.
If we give you any sort of new proposal now, is it something the city council is even willing to look at, to even consider, or are they just gonna look at it again like all these other 3 and go, not the right time?
I mean,
There's no actuary
we'll
study.
always take it back, but I mean, this is where the
There's-
stance is
We
on
can
this.
still throw some
I mean,
out.
whatever,
It's 3. It's 3. Your group number 3 needs to be made to be worked. I'm going to get you we're going to work on getting you the approval so you can talk Chad Little. There's no reason why 3 can't happen here. That's a big giant hit. This is a big giant difference. This is a big difference that can make a big impact on retaining and recruiting for these incoming, and we know it. Again, not stupid. None of us are ignorant. We're all willing to see the harsh realities of life. but we're also not walking in here with gold covered, I'm not wearing a Rolex. So we're trying to be humble in our ways. We're trying to offer the city council a way to improve while staying lean, like they want to say. We'll get you that.
I think what we should do is, you're gonna get permission to talk to, the actuary. We're gonna look at what this, the drop off is that we don't seem to know. Make sure we understand what that is and get another, appointment on the books for us.
Yes, please.
I think one thing you have to understand is your city is beautiful. It's not its greatest asset. Its greatest asset is your fire department and your law enforcement people. And you're correct. I represent a lot of other agencies. And they've made the decision that they need to attract and keep the people they have and attract new ones. So they are increasing benefits. Every officer involved shooting that I've represented officers on from this city has been in an apartment complex. And I'm on the other side 9/10 of the time. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. But I've grown to deeply appreciate these law enforcement officers and how they put their lives on the line every single day. People don't ever take that into consideration until we lose one. But you're going to lose them now just because they're not going to be attractive. And the other agencies are dangling some nice carrots. So I know that, there's nothing you say you can do today and that they'll be meeting for consideration next year. But realize in the interim, you're probably going to lose potentially good people coming in and those that are already here.
Been a pleasure. Do you have anything else? Okay.
Do you guys want to book another meeting in August?
I'm fine with that. Late August would be best.
Could we potentially look at the week of the 22nd?
Yeah, I have openings that day.
And the reason for that is we'd like to get
22nd? Yes.
Is 1:30 a good time for you?
Which day?
That is a Monday, the 22nd
Okay.
of August.
Yes.
We'll rebook it for 1:30.
Mr. McKay, what was your reason? What was the reason for that?
we'd like to reconvene so that we can then schedule a shade meeting with council and discuss.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording.
Yep.
All right, please stop.
Please stop.